What's up, everyone? We are in a series called Vision, and we are going over our vision statement. So, at Grace Church and in Grace Kids, we have the same vision to help everyone become an outward focused follower of Jesus. And so, that's our vision statement. And if you watched last week, we decided we are going to do it backwards. And so, the first word in that is Jesus. Jesus is the first word. So, that's what we learned last week. And he's the most important part. Jesus is. But today we are going to do the next part. And so it says this: Jesus of followers focused outward. Now, even saying our vision statement backwards kind of makes it sound like Yoda from Star Wars. But the next part of our vision statement is really what we are supposed to live like, how we're supposed to live and do that. So we're going to go word by word and think about what it actually means to be a follower focused outward, or outward focused follower. So the first word is follower. Okay, so what does it mean to follow something or follow someone? Maybe at school, when you go in a line, you have to follow the person in front of you, or say your parents put in coordinates or an address on GPS, you follow where it tells you to go. Or maybe even things like people on YouTube, like you subscribe to them, or people who stream, or even sports. You follow sport teams. You track what they do. You keep up with what's going on with them. You follow them. And for us, the most important person that we can follow is Jesus. And so we follow a whole bunch of different things. I follow the Kansas City Chiefs. I follow Sporting Kansas City. I like following my friends on social media. Yeah, I like following a lot of different things. But even whenever I was a kid, I had friends that I followed. I did everything that they did because I thought they were cool. I wanted to be cool. And so there are things that I followed. And so there were people in the Bible just like this. And so we know them now as disciples, but some followed him everywhere they went. Some followed him just for a certain time. And some people just showed up, listened, and left. But let's look at one example. So there is a man named Simon Peter. And Simon Peter, imagine this. It's him and his brother, and they go out fishing. Maybe you've gone fishing before. They go out fishing all night long. So it's pitch black. They're fishing all night. They do not catch a single thing. And then they come back to shore, exhausted from staying up all night. And on the beach or the dock, they see someone there standing. And he has a little crowd and he's teaching. And when they pull up, they were probably exhausted. And so the teacher turns and he's like, "Hey, can I stand on your boat to be able to talk better?" And so they say, "You know what? Sure, whatever. That's fine. Do whatever you got to do. We need to clean up our boat. Not clean up much because there's no fish, but we got to do things." So he says, "Okay." And so this man stands on top of the boat and starts to talk. And then this is what happens. It says this in Luke 5. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish." He may be thinking, what are you talking about? We were just up all night. And that's what he says. "Master," Simon Peter replied, "we worked so hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let the nets down again." And this time, their nets were so full, fish began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. So remember, they had not caught a single thing all night. They were exhausted. They were tired. And now they are wide awake, trying to figure out how to get all these fish into the boat without tearing their nets. And so they are holding on for dear life. And it says this in verse 8. Simon Peter realized what had happened. He fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, and as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed, the two people who came and helped. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." As soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. So, followed. That was our key word, followed. They left everything and followed Jesus. And so they left their nets behind, their boats behind. They left their families behind. They left their friends behind. They left everything behind to go and follow Jesus. And so they were followers of Jesus. And so they were with him for 3+ years. They walked where he walked, ate probably what he ate, slept where he slept, did everything with him. And they followed him everywhere they went. They did what he had told them to do as well. He said, hey, do this. And they went and did it. And so today we call them disciples of Jesus. And maybe you know about the disciples. But we do the same thing. That's why we read the Bible. We want to be better, like a follower of Jesus. And so that's why we learn what Jesus said and read what he does so we can follow and be more like him. That's also why we go to church or devote or set aside time to spend with him. And Jesus showed what it means for us to be part of our next part of our vision statement, which is the word focused. Focused. So what does focus mean? If you think about focus, maybe someone's been like, hey, focus. It's like to pay attention. Or maybe you're trying to practice homework and you really got to focus on your homework so you get a good grade on it. Or maybe you've seen a horse race. Have you ever seen a horse race before? Horses, they have little blinders on that helps them focus. They wear these so they can't see the people next to them or see they can only see straight ahead. And so they can't see the horse next to them, so they can only be focused on the finish line. And this is focused. You're paying attention to only the most important thing. And so followers of Jesus should be focused on, what do you think? What do you think? Which leads us to our next word, which is outward. Outward. And so maybe if we think of opposites, you may think outward and inward. Outward and inward. And so Jesus showed us what it means to be outward focused. And so there's another story in the Bible. It's about this rich man. And he asked Jesus, he says, what good deed must I do to have eternal life, to be in communion with God forever? And so Jesus says, if you want to receive eternal life, sell all your things. He says, keep the commandments. He says, keep the commandments. In Matthew 19, 18, and 22, let's see what happens next. So the man asked, which commandments? And Jesus replied, you must not murder, you must not commit adultery, you must not steal, you must not testify falsely, honor your father and mother, love your neighbor as yourself. And he says, I've obeyed all these things, the young man replied. What else must I do? So Jesus told him, if you want to be perfect, go and sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. But when the young man heard this, he went away sad, for he had many possessions. So do you think the rich man was outward focused or inward focused? Inward focused. He didn't want to give up something because he loved it more than Jesus or following God. And riches aren't bad, but Jesus saw the rich man was more focused on what he had and what he had and had received than what he could give. And so when we're followers of Jesus, we learn from him to be like him. And so we start doing things that he did. That means that we're outward focused. And so when we look at the example of Jesus in Jesus's life, Jesus cared for people who were sick. Jesus loved and touched those who needed it. He spent time with those who would be considered outcasts or have no friends. He had compassion on people and healed them. And there's a man who had leprosy, a skin disease, and which was uncurable, extremely contagious. And when you got this disease, you would have to leave everything, go out of the town, and you'd be like an outcast forever. And whenever you would come in the town, they would have to yell unclean so people would get away from him. So that is bad. People were like disgusted by them, would not even associate with them, but not Jesus. So in Mark 1, verse 40 through 44, it says, a man with leprosy came and knelt in front of Jesus, begging to be healed. If you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean, he said. Moved with compassion, Jesus reached out and touched him. I am willing, he said. Be healed. Instantly, the leprosy disappeared and the man was healed. Then Jesus sent him on his way with a stern warning. Don't tell anyone about this. Instead, go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed. He wasn't disgusted by the man. And what does he say he was moved with? Compassion. Compassion. Jesus even touched him and healed him. And so when we are outward focused followers of Jesus, we begin to live like him too. And so let's put this together so far, what we have. So we have Jesus, a follower, focused outward. So the most important word of all of that is Jesus. Jesus. We have to have a relationship with God and know him as a friend and be a friend with Jesus. He loved you and me so much that he came to the earth, lived a sinless life, and died for us so our sin would be covered. All of our mistakes and disobedience to God would be covered by Jesus' sacrifice. And so when we believe this, we can tell someone, we are saved. We are saved. Then we begin to start living differently. And so our focus changes. Remember our focus. We may be like this before we're saved, but then we get focused on who Jesus is and what he did and what we're supposed to do because of it. And so people may think certain things are cool, but we're like, hey, it's not that cool. You know, it's cooler what Jesus did for us. And so we can be focused on living for others like Jesus did. And he doesn't make us do this, but he wants us to. And he told us that it's our mission while we are alive on earth. And so will you do it? And what are you waiting for? So even right now, we are learning about Jesus, but you have a choice to make. So what will you do? We'll see you next week.